was it not a big transformation from armed forces to markets? How did it happen? And how did you come in contact with technical analysis and then you realized that this is the call of my life?
Yeah. It already happened when I was at the military academy because I studied economics. So you go to the academy and you have a peacetime job and a wartime job, and I studied economics. So in peacetime I was running finances of an air base. My wartime job was local air defense control officer, which meant being behind a radar screen, identifying friendly or enemy planes, and deciding which weapons to choose. But also during my studies, the Dutch Air Force was buying F-16 planes in the US.
Right.
The euro didn't exist, so we still had Dutch guilders. But you buy these planes and they're hundreds of millions of US dollars. And in the Netherlands, there is a law that says that whenever a governmental body buys goods or products in a foreign currency, you got to immediately buy that currency when you have signed that contract.
Right.
So the Dutch Air Force was signing hundreds of millions worth of F-16 planes, and right at that time they were buying the same hundreds of millions of US dollars against the guilder. Now obviously those planes are not delivered overnight, so it takes like a year, sometimes longer. This is late 80s. US dollar against the guilder was like going all the way down. So we had hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank that were just losing value over time. And I was looking at it, I thought, that's kind of stupid. We can do better than that. And the options market was just getting to life. And I started studying options, and I said, hey, why don't we just buy some call options, or if we need to buy that stuff, we can just sell some puts, or if we really have to buy the US dollars, buy some puts to protect it, or whatever. Just do something to protect that downside. So that got me in touch with options theory, and I got in touch with a company that was teaching options to retail investors. So in my spare time, because it was just fun and I like to do it, I was teaching retail traders what an option is. What's a call option? What's a put option? What does it actually do? What's the payoff scheme? What's a spread? What's a straddle? All that kind of stuff. That company was also doing technical analysis, because when you trade options, you're usually a little bit shorter term orientated.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of long-term technical analysis, but short-term there's no such thing as short-term fundamental analysis. So if you trade options, you're sort of convicted to using technicals. So that's how I got in touch with technicals. That's how I started studying, read all the books, etc. And then, in the early 90s, I left the Air Force and took up a job as a fund manager for a life insurance company, and that's when I transitioned from the military into the finance world.
Great. So it all started from the currency exposure.
Yes.
And moving on to options and become a quite useful tool for investment.